We then have 7 study supervisors in Arabic, Dari, Somalia, and Tigrinya. When you are 16 and to 20 is to be entered to Vimmerby Gymnasium, they are first to report either a reception desk, through a personal visit at the program, or through the integration unit. First, there is an enrollment meeting with the student, a teacher, and the school nurse. Complete name and social security number are registered. Also, name of the parents and their orders. The students also inform if they have dietary requirements, if they do not eat pork or something, as example. The most time commuting during the enrollment meeting is, of course, what school background the student has. Some have no school experience at all, while others have been in school for up to 10 years. The conditions are very different. This means we have to meet the students where they are, no matter where that is. What they all have in common is that they all have to learn Swedish as a second language. Students with previous school experience are more likely to understand their study situation and may also have a good study technique. There are students with no school background that also have no written language, illiterates. These students, of course, are way behind in their learning. What often is concerning with the group is that they tend to be stressed about the Swedish school system, since you can not come to the gymnasium high school program later than that year that you turn 19 years old. In some cases, this means you may only have 2 or 3 years to learn Swedish, complete 7 subjects, and get into a program. There are no exceptions to this fact. It's of great importance exactly when the students arrive in Sweden and what age they are. Chances of learning a new language are, of course, better the younger you are when you are coming to Sweden. It's not unusual that students from foreign countries are approved in other subjects before they get approved in Swedish and second language. This is not a coincidence. The Swedish language is not easy to learn. When you learn Swedish, you are expected to speak so that others can understand you. You're also required to be able to write, understand the grammar, and the reading comprehension is very important. The latter is very difficult. For example, reading a book, understand what you are reading, and then talk about it in your own words. Students from other countries often learn mathematics, their own language, and PE, and get grades before have your grade in Swedish as a second language. When the students got their first grade, they are very pleased because they know that they understood the Swedish school system. The students are pleased and got self-confidence and self-esteem. Students from other countries are called new arrived in Sweden for 4 years. After 4 years, you are not a newly arrived anymore. To enter a vocational program in high school, you have to have passing grades in 8 subjects, but nearly arrived can get exceptions from English subject. When you start a vocational program with 7 grades, then you study English in the primary school level, but at the same time you'll be enrolled in the high school program. Earlier, when students from other countries come to Sweden, they didn't want to study the vocational programs. They only wanted to study the program which enabled them to continue studying on universities. They wanted to go on a program that made them possible to be a doctor or a lawyer. They must have 12 passing grades to get to study in those programs. Nowadays, newly arrived refugees and immigrants want to study vocational programs because they get an education and then they can start working and finish high school. If you attend, for example, health and social care program, you can become an assistant nurse, and then you can study a little bit more, and then you can become a nurse or a doctor. When you come to Sweden alone without a family or unaccompanied, then the same rules apply as of other immigrants. But if you are without a family, you get a guardian. They help the students with all things they need. They also help them with economic questions. The young people who come here without a family live in special houses so they can meet other people who are in the same situation as them, but they get their own room. Both unaccompanied refugees and immigrants who come to Sweden get money from the municipality where they live. That's what all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Neta. Yes, you can stay here. I'm thinking you might have any questions about this. So the system is a little bit different as you when you compare it to the Spanish one, I'm assuming, right? We have a lot of students that are coming here without their families that are unaccompanied. So just the student themselves running away from war. And in this situation, well, the rules are the same for them as for anybody else, but they have to have this guardian who's helping them out, somebody who's an adult who's helping them out. I don't know if you have something like that in Spain as well. Is it common?
Sí, tenemos aldeas infantiles.
Okay.
Acogen a los niños sin familia hasta los 18 años. Y a veces a partir de los 18 en pisos tutelados, a veces.
What about this situation that 4 years after their arrival, they have 4 years and they're considered newly arrived for 4 years, and after that, not more anymore. Then they're just considered as a normal student. Is the same situation in Spain?
Sofía. ¿No se te oye?
Buenas. Hola, Lidia.
Hola, Nuria.
Lidia, soy Nuria.
Sí, sí.
Vale, me escuchas, vale. Vamos a ver, es que creo, vamos, me he tenido que conectar tarde, me he tenido que salir de una clase, pero creo que estáis hablando de vuestro sistema de inmigrantes de atención en el colegio, ¿verdad? Sí, entonces lo que nos cuenta Pilar Saez es el sistema de acogida de vivienda familiar.
Sí, porque estamos hablando de eso también.
También, vale, es que no lo sabía.
Mi pregunta es, aquí
a nivel de cole no hay nada parecido. A nivel de cole, de 4 años de permanencia hasta que aprenden el idioma, sin que transcurra el sistema de evaluación ni les penalice por no sacar el curso y demás, eso no existe. Eso no existe, un programa como tal. ¿Vale? Entonces, bueno, creo que estabais hablando de eso, como he entrado tarde, pero por un poquito aclararlo. No tenemos un programa de atención.
Agneta is telling me
los coles.
No se oye.
Can you hear me?
Perdona, can you repeat, please, Lidia?
Okay, the connection is a little bit weird, I think.
Yeah.
Agneta was telling me that the only exception that these students have when they get to Sweden is that they don't have to have English with them. So English, we can leave English for later, focuses on Swedish, because lots of them do not have English with them from before, and we think it is difficult for them to learn both at the same time. So they can have elementary school or primary school English, but can continue to go to high school. and then
Okay.
catch up with their English.
Yeah. ¿Y el sueco? ¿Cuándo aprenden el sueco?
Like Agneta said before, so it takes them more time to learn Swedish than other subjects. So sometimes they get a grade in math or another subject before they get a grade in Swedish. Sometimes it takes more time. And it depends, of course, on the level of their education from before. But some of them have education from before. For example, students coming from Syria are usually better educated.
Yes, they are. They have been at school at maybe 10 years, and then they can speak the English language.
While, for example, if we have students from Afghanistan or we have students from Eritrea or from other African countries, their school background is much worse. They don't have that much experience in going to school. So for them, it takes more time to adapt and to learn the language and so on. And then we also have the problem of the alphabet, right? Because some students, if they speak Arabic, for example, they cannot write the alphabet. Not even in their own language, yes. So they're maybe have the language with them in speaking, but not in writing. And then we have to start from scratch and teach them the alphabet and start there. So for them, of course, learning Swedish and everything else takes much longer time.
Qué guay. Qué bien.
Other questions, maybe?
No, Lydia, here in Spain, when they come, they're into the system and they have to learn English as any other student. So English is a language they have to learn because it's in the curriculum. So it's not special for them. They are not supposed not to go to English. Can you listen to me?
Se ha ido.
Ahora, ¿podéis repetir porque tenemos problema con el sonido?
Sí.
Vale, repite, Sofía, que la has explicado muy bien.
Okay, so I said that here in Spain, students come and they have to adapt to the curriculum, so they have to study English. So English is another subject like maths or language or natural science. Sometimes the support teacher takes the student in the English class, but the students are supposed to pass English as any other subject. So I think in Sweden it's better organized. For me, it doesn't make sense that students have to learn English apart from Spanish. They should, as you do in Sweden, I think the students should concentrate first in the language of the country and then in English. But here we don't have this exception. English is another subject and they have to study English.
And it probably gives them a lot of trouble because they're trying to learn Spanish at the same time. So it's very difficult.
Remember what your student said yesterday about classic, chaotic? Imagine we have South American students with no English and they are there. And if there are a lot of students, they get hectic because they don't understand anything and they just make a noise and they get bored and very complicated.
Claro, es que, Lidia, lo que ocurre es que no hay nada preparado para eso. O sea, no es un sistema, voy a quitarme esto, no es un sistema adaptado, ¿vale? Entonces, ellos se incorporan al currículum normal, al que hacen el resto de los alumnos. Y lo único que se hace, que es lo que explicó Pilar en nuestras conferencias, era una atención para el aprendizaje del idioma. Pero no hay ningún sistema, ningún curso puente, trasvase, de un tiempo estancado para ir aprendiendo el idioma local o a través del inglés ir incorporándole otras materias. Eso no existe, es que no existe. Hay un déficit enorme en ese sentido. Por eso dice Sofía que vuestro sistema es mejor en ese sentido. ¿Vale? Un compañero me tengo que poner mascarilla, ¿vale? No te preocupes.
Eso comentaba yo. Por eso el otro día comentaba yo que siempre estábamos pidiendo un aula de acogida, claro. Porque los niños vienen y los metemos en la clase y es una barbaridad. Están perdidos. No, así no se puede trabajar.
Tenemos mucho que aprender de eso.
Silvia quiere decir, no se le oye, pero sí que no nos
pone, pero sí que nos algo pone, sí, a ver qué dice. No lo puedo leer.
que adapta
pone que
los
nos
casos
adaptamos
que
según
tienen.
los casos.
Vale.
Está escribiendo Silvia que nos adaptamos según los casos, pero la adaptación no es que estén dentro de la clase, es que los cojamos, los preparemos, sepan el idioma y después puedan ya hacer otras asignaturas,
Seguir
pero
el curso.
con falta del idioma es imposible.
Ella nunca había dado inglés y tenía su... Ay, es que me falta un trozo por leer en el
Material
móvil.
adaptado.
Su material adaptado, vale.
Okay,
Claro.
so there are some exceptions for some students. They take them out of some subjects and adapt their material. But it should maybe be done for everybody and should be more organized. So it's not only several cases, that you have a system maybe that is better for it, right?
Un esfuerzo así.
Exactly.
Para el profesor, no para el sistema. Es un esfuerzo para el profesor que quiere hacerlo bien.
Claro.
Of course, it's very challenging for the teacher to learn in this way, especially if you have 25 others in the classroom at the same time. Yes, of course.
Muy bien. Hello, Agneta. Agneta, hello. Do you remember me? No? No?
I didn't hear.
Yes? You know me?
For her.
Yes, do you remember?
Where?
A ver, well,
Yes, yes, of course.
Yes.
Of course. In France, yes. Yes, of
Yes.
course. Now I see you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I'm fine.
Nice
and
to
you?
see
How
you.
are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you.
And
I
you?
am very happy that you speak with us.
Yes,
I'm
of
very
course.
happy. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Mm.
Okay. Thank you, Agneta, for joining us. That was excellent. We can, of course, open discussions a little bit later. But
Right.
I would like us to continue with our program now.
Okay.
So Marie and I, we're going to talk about the program and the assignment that you have made with the students.
Are we?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Marie Lindblom, and I work here at Vimmerby Gymnasium as a teacher in Swedish as a second language. And I think I have met Nuria sometime. Yeah, you are not. Yeah. When I was asked to join this year, we were talking about that I should ask my students if they could think of what they think is typical Swedish. So I have a class who are doing their second year on gymnasiet, and I teach them in Swedish as a second language. But this we had to do in English so that you will understand some of it, I hope. And I asked them to think about what they think is typical Swedish. And I didn't want them to look on the internet or something like that. And I want them to think, what do you think is typical Swedish? Because we often talk about that. And in some way, I get surprised what they think is typical Swedish. And it's not the same that I thought that they should talk about, because we often have a discussion about the Swedes eating so much potatoes. But none of them this time talked about the potatoes, but there are other interesting things. So we asked them to do some films about this subject, and it was a lot of talking, and I had to tell them more than once, have you finished your speech or your film? But I think we finally made 4 videos where 4 of my students will tell you what they think is typical Swedish.
I'm thinking only it may be important to say how long they have been in Sweden, just to have reference points.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it's about, they are in their second year at gymnasiet. I think about 4 years perhaps, because some of them have joined other schools here in Vimmerby before they come to Vimmerby Gymnasium. So about 4 or 5 years, I think. But as I see you talked about earlier, the Swedish language is not a simple language. And some of my problems as a teacher is to get the students to understand how much they must know about the language before you can say that they can speak Swedish. Not so much about the speaking part, because they all almost try to do, they learn very quickly to speak the language and to understand. But the problem is to read and understand, and to read, to write different texts. That's a big problem, I would say. Do you have the same problem with yours? Yeah. And I often hear from my students who hasn't been here for a long time, and they say, I understand what you say, but from that point to get a grade, it's a quite long way. And some of them don't have the understanding that it must take a long time for them to reach the goal. But I tell them to be patient, but some days it works and some days it won't work. So, and of course, it's different because between different students. Some of them have easy to learn a language, and some of them have more difficulties. And I think it's depend on how the language of their own is. If they can read and write on their own language, it helps when you should learn Swedish. Okay, I think we will show you the videos, and perhaps we can, if you want to, we can have a discussion or questions if you think the same as my students do. What is typical Swedish for you? Okay. So now I'm not a technical person, so I hand it over to Lydia.
Thank you, Marie. Great. Let's see if it works this time with our computers and sharing everything. Give me a second. I've seen the videos and I thought they were really, really good. So I have to say to Marie that they've done an excellent job there. Let's see. Here they are. We can start with a girl, I'm thinking. Okay, because everybody else are boys.
The sound.
Yes, we have to. I think fix the sound a little bit here. Just give me a second. I will start the videos first and try to see the sound as well. And I'm thinking we can pause it so you can tell me if I need to make the sound a little bit higher. Okay, let's see. Share sound and this as well. I think you can see the screen, but what's more important for me is that you can also hear it. Let's try, and I will pause.
Hi, it's Rani. Today I want to tell you 5 things typical Swedish.
Can you hear it?
Más o menos.
Más o menos.
Más menos que.
Eso es el máximo. Y aquí también es el máximo. Bien, vamos a empezar del principio. Es que ella habla muy también como bajo, sí.
Hi, it's Rani. Today I want to tell you 5 things typical Swedish. First, midsummer is a typical Swedish holiday. Swedish people usually celebrate it between 20th to 26th June. They eat special foods such as herring, fish, strawberries, and this can be popular.
Can you hear it?
Es que se oye a otras personas.
Yes, I can hear, but if Thomas...
Thomas, you have to stop talking.
I can
We can hear Thomas better than Ranim.
Lo siento, pero estamos tratando
No,
más volumen.
it's a joke, Thomas.
No, I think this is the maximum. She's just speaking so low. But I can try. Alltid får man det på 125. Okay, you can try to higher your sound a little bit on your computers because I put everything to maximum now. I cannot do it more. Let me try this one. No, you detected. No, I don't want to try this because I think it will be wrong. Okay, let's try once again.
Que no saben poner el audio a través de...
Today I want to tell you 5 things typical Swedish. First, midsummer is a typical Swedish holiday. Swedish people usually celebrate it between 20th to 26th June. They eat special foods such as herring, fish, strawberries, and this can be popular to grill and grill youth these things overhead. Number 2, a traditional that can be typical also during this day is that you can pick some flowers and put them under a pillow. And what can happen? Yeah, it's that you can dream of your future partner. Number 3, summer is the Swedish favorite season. They go out and do some activities like and some bathing. Number 4, if you go to kitchen in Sweden, so usually or surely you come to find these things. This is osthyvel and it's for cheese. Number 5, a typical Swedish call it for VVV, 3V, which means you have Ella and Volvo car and Doki. Thank you for watching and hello.
She was cute. So you can see she's very shy and she's speaking very, very low. And that's usually typical for girls, I would say, coming from these regions. Boys are usually very loud, but girls are very quiet. Do you have the same experience? Yes. Or Pilar, you're not, is it so-so? Depending from which country?
Yes,
Depending. Ranim was very quiet here. So she talked about midsummer. She talked about the cheese grater that you saw. She talked about summer, how Swedish people love the summer. What else did she say?
Yeah,
The 3 V's. Yes.
3 V's.
Yes.
But she didn't translate it. It's in Sweden. It's Volvo, villa, vovve, and vovve is children talk for dog. And then we say a typical Swede has a Volvo car, a villa, that's a house, and a vovve, that's a dog. So that she thinks that is typical Swedish, the 3 V she was talking about.
Yes. Where is it Ranim from? Do you know?
Syria, I think.
Syria. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
And that explains her English, I would say, right? She has pretty good English with her from before as well. And that's our experience usually with students from Syria, that they have quite good English with them. Good. So that was the first one. Do you have any questions before we continue? No? Okay, let's continue and listen to the second one. I hope the boys will be a little bit louder, so it will be easier to hear. Okay, let's fix that then. Just a second. I'm thinking also here. 125, so it's on maximum here as well. And let's share the screen with you. This is Mohammed.
Spanish friends, me llamo Mohammed. Hola, my Spanish friends, me llamo Mohammed. Today I will tell you some Swedish things. Number one, we are taught about gifflar. It's one of Swedish most famous good pastas because they are very cheap and its taste is very good. It's one of Swedish most tasteless pastas. Este muy rico. Number two, here we are talking about the Swedish most traditional drink. It's Christmas must. Swedish people drink around 30 liters Christmas must every year, and the recipe is like Coca-Cola. It's a secret. For me, who is not Swedish, I will say Christmas must tastes very good. Number three, I will talk about snuff, Sweden and snuff. It sounds like a relationship that will never end. Snuff is a tobacco that contains nicotine, where you can buy in lows and small portions. And last one, number four. A big difference between Sweden and that country I come from, it's in my country use a lot of perfume, but they don't not do in Sweden. It is a kind of rule that you should not have too much perfume in the public place. So I do not recommend you to have too much perfume when you visit Sweden. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.
He's very right, actually. He's very right. So we have a lot of students, immigrant students, that walk in a cloud of perfume at school. And in Sweden, it's a rule that in public places, some people can be allergic to perfumes, especially to cheap perfumes. People can start sneezing a lot. Nora is one of them. Yes, she gets a headache from a lot of perfume. So we try to not have perfume at school because we're meeting so many people, and some of them might be having problems with this. So we always have to teach the students, the immigrant students, that this is a problem, and you have to repeat it many, many times until they understand it. So they're not walking in a cloud of perfume around school. Because it can give trouble to some people. But as you can see, Mohammed brought up some interesting things that maybe Marie would not think of in the first place.
No. And me, myself, I don't drink Christmas must. I think it's too sweet. But I think it's quite funny that he had tasted and he liked it. And he took it as a typical Swedish thing to do. And this about perfume, I often have a discussion with my students not to wear too much perfume, because we have some problem with that. So I think it's interesting that he chose to took this subject here.
Definitely. I think we can go on and show you. We have two more. And see what they can, what they have to tell you and share with you. Just give me a second. Might, I think, can be the next one.
Welcome to my presentation.
Okay.
My name is...
We will share the presentation with you so you don't just hear the sound. Give me a second. I think the sound will be better now. And boys are speaking loudly.
Welcome to my presentation. My name is Maid. I am 19 years old and from Syria. Today I will talk about 5 things that define us Swedish, typically Swedish. I think we can start with the Swedish flag. Swedish flag, you can find it everywhere in Sweden. The one that characterizes Sweden. Before the National Day.
Pilar, por favor, me parece que es tu micrófono. ¿Puedes poner que no se escucha? Gracias.
Everywhere in Sweden. The one that characterizes Sweden. Before the National Day celebration, the flag must be raised at the top to congratulate Sweden and all Swedish on that day. We can now, I can now show you another typical Swedish, which is Christmas must. Almost all Swedish are Christians, which means that they celebrate Christmas. And in Christmas Day, the Christmas must is sold mostly. It's a kind of drink and is very good. You will certainly find it in all the grocery store, as well as in schools and homes and jobs everywhere in Sweden in that day. And now we go to the third typical Swedish, and that is Volvo. Volvo cars or Volvo trucks. Volvo cars are made in Sweden. There are many who have Volvo cars in Sweden. As if you drive a long or short road, you must find at least one Volvo car. The police in Sweden have Volvo cars. The ambulance has Volvo cars. The salvage companies have Volvo trucks. I myself had a Volvo car. Even my parents have a Volvo car. That is why I think Volvo is a typical Swedish. Now we come to fourth typical Swedish, and that is dogs. I think that dogs are typical Swedish because it's in about every other home in Sweden you will find at least one dog. And there are laws and regulations that protect the dogs. So dogs is a typical Swedish. Now we come to fifth and last typical Swedish, and it's Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, born October 3rd October 1981 in Malmö in Sweden, and is a Swedish. He is a Swedish football player who plays for AC Milan in Serie A on the Swedish national team. Ibrahimovic has been awarded the Golden Ball 12 times and is generally considered to be one of Sweden's best football players of all time. He is also very well known in Sweden and other countries. Because he is a good player. And now I have to thank you for listening to my presentation and hope you feel good now.
Yes, mine was really sweet. There you go. So he repeated the Christmas must. But he also brought things that he liked about Sweden. The Volvo. He's obviously into cars, and he likes football as well, as you can see, right? So it was actually, I would say, I agree with him. It's typically Swedish. Good. Any questions or comments before we move on to the last one? No? Okay, let's take the last one then and see what they have to say. The sound is good now, right? Yeah, good, perfect. And that was Jawad. Okay, let's share it.
Hello, my name is Jawad Sahi, and I'm going to talk about some typical aspects of Swedish society. So, I would like to start with Swedish culture of using collective traffic. We in Sweden, we are most likely to be silent while using collective traffic like buses and subway or train. And it is part of Swedish culture to be silent when you're using this kind of collective traffic. And we don't usually used to talk one another while being in this studies environments. But I have to mention that if you need to help or direction to somewhere and you're new to Sweden and you don't know where to go, so don't hesitate to ask for help because in that case it's an exception and you will be very welcomed and you will get appropriate answers and the help you need. And as it's famous, Sweden is one of the hardest and most difficult countries to find friends. It is really a little bit hard to find some friends in Sweden especially if you're new to this country. But if you take your time and go step by step, and then you're gonna find some friends, and you will have best friends, and they're gonna be your friends for life, literally. And about dating culture in Sweden, it's usual for Swedish girls to pay for their own parts in a date because usually Swedish teenagers and they are economically independent, and that's because of the dominating system for students in Sweden, which prepare about 1,250 Swedish crowns per month, which is a quantity around $130 for students as a salary every month, and therefore Swedish teenagers and students are independent. And Swedish köttbullar or meatballs, which you have eventually heard about it. It's the typical Swedish meat, which Swedes usually eat it, and not only purely, which we can also combine it with other kind of meats as well. And Swedish semla is another traditional sweet roll or pastry in Sweden, which Swedes usually eat it, but every year on first day of March, the day is called for the semla day, and that day the most Swedes buy some semla pastries and eat it together with their partners or family members. And thank you for your attention.
Okay, that was Jawad. Yes. Yes, he mentioned semla. When you come to Sweden in the springtime, that's something you have to try. It's really, really good. And it's very interesting what he said about public transport, that everybody's quiet when they're riding a bus or a train. It's really the truth. So usually it's usually the immigrants who are not aware of this. So they come in talking on their phone loudly, and everybody just starts staring at you if you do that. It's very uncommon. And when you're riding the metro in Stockholm, it's the same thing, very similar, I would say. It's crazy. You have hundreds of people in there and it's quiet. So it's very unusual. But everybody respects that we don't want to hear what you're thinking or talking about. So keep that to yourself. Now we're riding the train, so you can do that. And also interesting, Marie, what he said about making friends. It's something that lots of people think about Sweden as well, that Swedes need more time to open up. But when they do, then you have friends for life. But for students coming from the southern countries or cultures, it's a difference because Swedes are not as open in the first time when you meet them. They're more reserved. And then it takes time for them to open up. So it's not like, oh, we're best friends from today. It doesn't work that way. You have to earn that. Okay. Sylvia is saying we should have something similar in Spain, that people are too noisy in public transport. Yeah, it's a culture thing again. Swedes are usually more quiet in classrooms, in public transport, everywhere. They're usually more quiet. Okay.
That is something that I have thought about when they are talking to each other. They talk very loud, and in the beginning I thought that they were going to have a fight because the voices were so loud. But when I told them what's it all about, and they just said, we're just talking. So I think that's a big difference between the Swedes. We are more quiet. Not all of us, of course, but I think that's a big difference. And as Lydia says, I think it's some culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jabad was talking about the subway,
mm-hmm.
and I think it's the same in hospitals, dentists. You can have perhaps 5, 6 Swedes sitting there, and you only talk to another person if you know them. You don't talk to an unknown person. So it's very quiet. So I think that's he has a big point there, I think,
mm-hmm.
when he talks about the Swedes are quiet.
Mm-hmm. And Sylvia is writing that you have musicians and entertainers in the public transport in Spain. I recognized it. It's the same in Croatia. They come in and they want money and they go around, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very loud in public transport. I don't think that would be something that would happen in Sweden.
Unless they are drunk.
Maybe, yes, in that case. But otherwise, no.
Okay, I have to rush for my class. So I say goodbye for now and hope to meet you some other time in real life.
Thank you, Marie.
So speaking. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Yes, it's also something very important that nobody of the students mentioned is that Swedes are very punctual. They start on time and they end on time, and it's always like that. There are no exceptions. I know that we in Southern Europe have a concept of time that is a little bit more flexible, so 10 minutes here or there. No, in Sweden, even if you're invited to a party, you come like that minute. That's when you come. It's not like from that hour on, it's that minute you show at the door. That's how it works. I don't know, Thomas, do you have anything to add about that? I think it's pretty true, right? Yeah, come hit. Maybe Thomas has another experience because Nora and I are also immigrants, so to say. So for us, it's different. But Thomas is an original.
Now you can see an original Swedish man. They are normally very quiet, not talk too much, very calm and understanding. Now I would say, I don't know. Yes, I know that when I go to Latin America, which I do more or less every year, or perhaps at least twice a year, I sort of fall into the same culture. Okay, they say there's a meeting at 11. Okay, but that's fine. It's just 15:15 now, so I can just do that thing first, and then I can go to this meeting. But if it's in Sweden, no, you don't do that actually. But my wife always tell me that I'm really bad on coming punctually. So perhaps
you're not a typical Swede.
I'm not a typical Swede, but I don't think all Swedes are like that. But it's very, it's a set time. If you have a meeting with some officer from the government or some headmaster or whatever like that, you should be there in time, because it's not a good way of showing respect to the person.
But what about if you're invited for dinner to somebody, your friends? Or...
that's almost the same thing. I'm normally rather late, and my wife always says, "Hey, come on, hurry up, we have to be there. It's just 5 minutes left." But that's no problem. We can be there 5 minutes past or 10 minutes past. So I think I don't know. I don't know. I don't think everybody is like that punchy. No.
Mm-hmm.
At least
then you get the equal like when you don't show up on time.
Yeah. My experience is that, for example, if you're invited for dinner at 6, the dinner is warm at 6.
Yeah.
You have to go and start eating. It's like 5 minutes past. So if you're late, they're sitting at the table waiting for you. And it's very uncomfortable. So that is my experience.
I think we have sort of different friends. But
maybe.
Perhaps my friends are
more
just
flexible.
More flexible.
Could be. Yeah. Good. But now we are actually going overboard with time. So it's time for us to take a coffee break, and we will be back. Maybe you want to say something more.
Yeah, just one thing, because before, so I don't sort of lose that. We were talking about the immigrants, the teaching or the training for the immigrants when they come here. I think that would be a good project to collaborate around, perhaps how we should handle the immigrants coming to our countries. It's okay. We are not perfect in the way we are doing it right now. And you said you have problems, they just put them into the class, which is, for me, it's, I don't know, I realized that it would be just a big fight in the classroom. So that could be a good subject for another sort of mobility thing. Go there, see how they work, and talk to each other, try to sort of find a good way of handling this.
Mm-hmm. That's actually an excellent idea for another project, because I think I know that both our schools have gotten this 10-year Erasmus certificate now, accreditation. So we can be a little bit more flexible, and we don't have to apply for a certain project. We can be more flexible and have a little more smaller projects at the same time during these 10 years. So since both your schools and our school has this now, this accreditation, it could be something that we could continue to work on in the future. Good. I'm not going to keep you more. I've already stolen 6 minutes of your coffee break. So I'm going to see you at 11 again. And then Nora is going to be talking about how we incorporate the students into the classrooms when they are ready for that.
Okay.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.
The